On today's show, 3 questions. Number 1, did the Fed predict 2024 correctly? Number 2, how many wings did America eat during the Super Bowl? And number 3, where are you? Wow, we got to start that over. Number 3, where are you vacationing this year? Welcome to Dentist Money's 2 cents, where we have dentists navigate all the noise. I'm Matt.
I'm Taylor. And I'm Robbie.
I'm Taylor, not paying attention.
I said it right after it came through on my
Maybe
end.
it's a delay.
I don't know what's going on.
Maybe it's a delay. I'm sorry. We can't start the show off giving Taylor, just going at Taylor. We will say disclosure here today for this episode. It has been recorded an extra week early. That is because I am going to when this comes out, I will be in Nicaragua with Elevation Association Dental Group. So we just figured we'd get these done, let our producers get them out and get them all edited and out, so we don't have to make me record from Nicaragua. Although I was realizing, Robbie, I don't know if you remember, last year I was in El Salvador and I recorded from El Salvador.
Yeah.
We did 2 cents from there.
Yeah.
So I'm realizing I maybe should have just done that, but
It's fine. I think it's
Either
a
way.
good way to hedge yourself, because whoever wants to congratulate you or tease you for a possible Eagles loss or win, they don't know. They'll have to wait until next week, and we'll hit it next week.
here's what I'm saying. This is coming out post Super Bowl, and I am so excited that the Eagles won 34-24. What an amazing Super Bowl 59. Saquon Barkley MVP, just incredible game. Love it. I am saying all this before the game's even been played, so I have no idea.
That's courageous. Good job.
Very courageous. I'm just putting it all out there. So, all right, let's jump in, Robbie. Did the Fed predict 2024 correctly?
Yes. Last week we talked about how much noise is happening in the market lately. And I really wanted to take the approach of looking out the window, looking into like the faraway mountains, and try to see stuff at a longer cadence of time, slowly, and see how the markets have been evolving. And we couldn't cover it in previous episodes, but around 2 weeks ago, our first estimates for Q4 GDP 2024 showed up, which now gives us a big image of how did 2024 fare in terms of economic growth, and whether the Fed was even near the expectations they set. So let me start with that. We will still get the second advance at the end of February for Q4. So this might not be the final number, but we're pretty close to just, use these numbers to get a really good sense of how the economy grew. So on an annualized term, the GDP in Q4 2024 grew at 2.3%. So you divide that by 4 if you want to see, which is good. Expectations were a little bit higher at 2.4%. So it was a little bit lower than expectations, but it's still above 2%, and it's still a very good growth for the economy. Also, as well, consumers were 70% of that. And then we've got government contributing around 18%. Businesses, on the other hand, which is the most cyclical part of the economy, and also I would say the one that is a leading indicator for economic growth in future quarters, actually went negative. And we'll have that talk about that in a second. Import-export, kind of insignificant, around like 0.2% of these 2.4%, which also raises the question, is like, how important is imports and exports / tariffs and headaches?
I was just going to say that, Robbie.
To drive the economy. Let's just focus on the
first thing I just thought of. Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, this is a story for a different time.
Yeah.
So let's look at where does this put us for 2024. I actually want to ask you guys, I hope you didn't look at my numbers. I'm talking about you, Taylor, but because you did it to me last week. Do you guys think the economy in 2024 did better or worse than in 2023?
I would assume better.
Both are good years, right?
Better.
Okay, so for the full year, the GDP in 2024, according to this data point, accelerated 2.8%, above the 2% target. Really good year. In 2023, we were 2.9%.
Okay.
Those are really good years, both of them, but this year has a little bit of a slowdown compared to last year.
What a whiff by us, Taylor. What a whiff.
Just goes to show
both got it wrong.
Just goes to show that the stock market and the economy aren't lockstep, right? Because if you look at the returns of 2024 were better than the returns in 2023. even though they were both good.
Yeah.
They were so similar, yeah. So here's what I have. If you guys remember, every single quarter, we take the opportunity to look at the summary of economic projections that the Federal Reserve submits. And they submit it every single quarter. And it tells us what they think their expectation is going to be for the growth of the economy for the year, the unemployment level is going to be at, what inflation is going to be measured by core PCE and PCE, as well as what they think interest rates are going to be for that year. And they actually predicted for 2 to 3 years in advance. So what I ended up doing is I took the December 2023 projections that they use about what they think the end of 24 is going to be. So a prediction a year in advance. I know that they changed their mind multiple times throughout the period. They changed their mind in March 2024 and June 2024 and later on in September 2024. But we're only going to look, a year before that, from December 2023, and see how it fared. Let me tell you, let's focus on the stuff that matter, the unemployment rate and inflation, because of the Federal Reserve's goal, their dual mandate is price stability and full unemployment. So their target is to actually match what they say they want to be at in terms of employment and in terms of inflation. They do not care what the economy does because they understand that economy is larger than just monetary policy, which they control.
They're just doing their job. Yeah.
They're just doing their job. So for the unemployment rate in December of 2023, they predicted that 2024 will end at a 4.1% unemployment rate. And they nailed it. We ended the year at 4.1. And throughout the year, they changed their mind. They raised it to 4.2 at one point, and they left it there, and they went back. So I'm not talking about them losing track along the year, but if you just take that snapshot, they got it right. And in terms of PCE inflation, the headline inflation, which includes food and energy, which is a little bit more volatile, they predicted the end of the year will be 2.4. It ended up being 2.4%, but it was 2.47. It's just like if you try to eliminate some digits, they got it right if you give them some slack. And
if Jerome Powell's hitting delete on the digits there.
Yeah, if you only take one decimal point, they got it right. And however, if you get core PCE inflation, which is the number they said they want to bring to 2%, that is the one. They expected 20 to end up at 2.4%, which is, part of the soft landing narrative. We're not getting there quickly. We ended the year at 2.8%. So they missed the mark on that by 0.4. All good stuff, nothing really crazy. If the markets, if data came in as we expect, we do not expect financial markets to do good. Financial markets move on information that is a surprise, not information that's already been communicated, incorporated into the price. So how would you justify equities going up 24% in 2024? Well, here's the deal. What happened? They expected the federal funds rate to be 4.6% by the end of 2024. But if you look at it right now, it's 4.3. And what I mean by 4.3, the target range is between 4.25 and 4.5. So 4.3. Their expected target range was going to be between 4.5 and 4.75. So on one hand, we are quarter percentage point or 25 basis points below than what has been communicated. And lower interest rates is a positive surprise. And on the other hand, thanks again to American consumers, economy...
Keep spending money, baby. Just keep spending money.
Guys, it's crazy because the Federal Reserve predicted the economy will grow at 1.4% in 2024, which is like we are slowing down the soft landing after a really good year of 2.9% in 2023. We ended the year aggregately at 2.8. So it is wild. It is double what was expected in terms of real economic growth, not nominal, real economic growth, which is astounding. It's really a very healthy, positive number.
Well, so just to this point, Robbie, this is what Jake has said. He said it on the last episode, and we talked a lot about spending. Again, we've said this a lot, where people love to complain about inflation, but it's not impacting behavior whatsoever. People just keep spending money. So it's like you keep tweeting about it or Xing about it, putting it on social media, but no one's changing. It's not going to, again, because it's not changing behavior, prices just stay where they're at.
It is so wild. Along next to that table where they said they expected to be 1.4%, they gave themselves a range of possible error. And on the lower end, that range dropped down to like 0.7. So they're cutting it by half. And then on the upper end of the range, they said even up to 2.5%. If the economy grows to 2.5%, we are still incorporating. It's in our range. They're trying to protect themselves that their prediction might be wrong. And the data point still came above that, which is wild. So good job, guys. Good job on having a very bad savings rate and spending all your money and growing the economy. But it is wild. So that is all fun part. The year has been great. If you had 2 years back to back of 2.9 and 2.8 real growth when the target is 2%, you should not be worried that the markets did cumulative 50% in a sense over the last 2 years. It's aligned with the data. Hard-earned money. What is interesting to look at is how the components of the GDP, aka consumption, investments from businesses, government impact, and exports minus imports, how they grew and changed quarter over quarter and what they indicate. So usually, just due to the systematic way the economy flows, companies come up with ideas and they anticipate trends and seasonalities and consumer tastes. So they prepare themselves ahead of time. They launch products like, in a sense, Apple is working on this, not this year's generation of the iPhone, but 2 years in advance, and they're already working on it, and they're making investments. So when the time comes, they have the same iPhone that we always buy every single year.
The quote-unquote upgraded iPhone, yeah.
The upgraded iPhone. So, but the idea is that businesses anticipate the economic activity, and they try to prepare themselves ahead of time. So when you look at the business's component out of the GDP breakdown, it's usually a leading indicator. So if you see business activity drop in a quarter or two, and then a quarter later or 2 quarters later, you might see consumption take a hit. I'm not saying it's turning negative, but it's like it slows down from the quarter-on-quarter growth. So I got some data on each of them. Consumption, in a sense, is not volatile, and then government is not volatile. Private domestic investments, aka investments, and imports minus exports are the most volatile. They grow at around 3 to 4% for consumption every single quarter, and then for government spending, it grows around 3% every single quarter. The others are fluctuating. For Q4 2024, consumption grew 4.2% versus Q3, and government spending grew 2.5%, which what contributes to, like, I'd say 85 to almost 90% of that 2.8 print we saw for Q4 and aggregated for the year as well. However, investment, just to give you some numbers, and I'm going to go all the way back to Q1 2023, investments in that quarter dropped 8.9. Then in the following quarter, Q2 2023 went up 8. Q3, 10%, Q4, 0.7, Q1 2024, 3.6, then Q2 2024, 8.3, then Q3 was 0.8, and now Q4 2024 dropped negative 5.6%. So we haven't had a drop in investment since Q1 2023. And if you guys remember Q1 2023, we were just at the height of a regime where the Federal Reserve just decided to stop hiking interest rates 2 months earlier. Interest rates were at the highest level they've gotten to, which was 5.5%. And they said, we need to pause because we think monetary policy works in a lag manner, and it'll just take time to trickle down and slow down the economy. So at that point, businesses said, okay, we might be heading to a harder macroeconomic conditions, so let's cut down on investment and let it not, it's actually contracted because it was a negative growth quarter over quarter. And then 2023 came astoundingly, as you saw the numbers, 2024 as well, no negative growth quarter to quarter. And this was the first quarter since, 2 years, 8 quarters in a sense, where we see it dropping down. If historical data is any indicator, macroeconomically, this is completely different than the other disclosure that past performance does not guarantee future returns, but they rhyme, is that from a business perspective, they think that the macroeconomic conditions going forward are going to be tougher. whether it was due to geopolitical risks, political risks, or just to the fact that we're in this Goldilocks zone where rates are stable right now and they're not moving, but we still have a little bit of inflation there and the labor market is stable where it's at. So a really great year. But if you look at the second order effects, such as investment growth as a portion of GDP, it is contracting and it is a leading indicator in the economy. So on the broader sense, economy is doing great, running above the target. I don't know how its momentum. The momentum is definitely slowing down, but it's not worrisome. But this is where we stand economically. And the Fed actually did well on unemployment and inflation, given that we disregard that they changed their mind multiple times during the year.
I was going to say, I mean, we've said this before, and I feel like it stands like with how complex and multifaceted the economy is and all the things they have to deal with. Like, we got to give them credit. The Fed navigated this about as well as you possibly could with everything coming at them and the things they were dealing with kind of post-COVID and inflation and just everything. So yeah, props to our boy Jay Powell. I know he's a fan of the show. They come to us when they need anything, whenever they need a strike broken, the government's calling us, be like, hey, we need to break up this strike. I think Jay Powell listens to the show to make sure we're staying on point. So honestly, credit to the Fed for the predictions for the way they navigated this. Yeah. Taylor, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, those close to him, he goes by JP. So usually when I'm talking...
JP, yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's funny, when I text him, he likes JP, but when we're talking, for some reason, he likes when I call him Jay Powell. But either way.
This is how I know that you two have never seen any Fed press conference, because he goes, stands on the podium, and he's the most boring, slow-talking person I've ever met.
He really is.
You guys are giving him nicknames, but
yeah,
anyway.
Yeah. I mean, he's similar to our girl Jay Yellen. So they're like cut from the same cloth. So I'm with you, Taylor. Any thoughts on that summary or anything else you want to add, Robbie?
No, I mean, it just goes to show that you can make predictions, right? And predictions always pay off, and we always get them right. So I think that's
exactly.
Well, when you're in control of the destiny, right?
Yeah, the whole
when you're saying
economy.
A prediction is you're just actually doing right, like saying what you said, like walking the talk in a sense and completing the job.
Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, the spending just kind of continues to blow my mind of just how much it continues, and it doesn't matter what we throw at the American consumer. We just we love spending money in America.
You know,
we find ways to spend it.
Anecdotally, we see this all the time, Matt, with our clients. You know, we tell clients all the time, you know, there's two levers that you can pull. You can pull the income lever, or you can pull the spending lever. And it's so hard. It is so hard emotionally for people to pull that spending lever. And try as they might, you know, the best way that you can prevent yourself from spending money is ever getting comfortable spending a certain amount. Because once you're comfortable spending a certain amount, it is so hard to go back.
Yeah, I've said this before. Good luck putting that toothpaste back in the tube once you've started spending. So, okay, well, that was awesome, Robbie. Thank you for the summary there of the Fed. Jumping into Super Bowl. You got me going. You got me thinking about this, Taylor, with your question. I perked up when I saw this.
Speaking of spending money, right?
Yeah, speaking of spending money.
I've already
So the question being, how many wings did America eat during the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I thought this was in this. Honestly, I picked an article that I thought was appropriate because I'm just excited for the Super Bowl this weekend, right? As many Americans are. And I would consider myself a casual NFL fan. You know, it's rare that I'll sit down and watch an entire game. Usually I'll watch 10-minute recaps of all the games on Sunday and, you know, maybe invest an hour or 2 hours a week. But the Super Bowl, it's just a really fun event, right? And it's, as the holidays are, self-appointed holidays are, that Matt, I know you've said in the past, Monday should be a national holiday after the Super Bowl. I wholeheartedly agree.
Totally agree. Yep. If I ever ran for office, I'd run on a two-pronged platform. Number one, Halloween would always be the last Friday of October, always. And then Super Bowl would be the Monday after the Super Bowl would be a national holiday. So vote for me.
100%. 100%. So I saw this number, and I guess I'm just going to ask you to throw out a number. How many wings do you think America is going to consume Super Bowl weekend?
I would not even begin to guess, but let's just throw some crap out there. I think
500 million.
Okay, wow. Did you just did that calculation?
Yeah,
right
it
off
was
the bat?
like, let's say 50 million watch it,
I was just
and then each person eats 10 wings.
I was gonna say I think about 50-ish million people watch it, but that's probably worldwide. I
Uh-oh.
don't know if that's just Americans. Yeah, I think 500 million is a good
500
guesstimate.
million wings, 250 million chicken debt.
Yeah, there you go.
So
how close was Robbie there, Taylor?
You're gonna be shocked that it's 1.47 billion wings.
Word.
Well, I guess
Okay.
if the Super Bowl game is 3 hours long, you will eat 20 wings, 22 wings.
Yeah, double that number. Yeah.
So just mind-boggling amounts of food will be consumed this weekend. Billions of chickens will be
And when this comes out, we mean last weekend. Yeah.
Yes. So just a fun stat for you guys. What I wanted to talk about really was a company that we all know and love called Amazon, and specifically a subset of Amazon called Amazon Web Services, AWS. So, a lot of times you'll see things that'll say powered by AWS, right, which stands for this Amazon Web Services. And since 2017, Amazon Web Services has been the NFL's data partner, official data partner, right? So basically what's happened is over time since 2017, Amazon has put computer chips everywhere, right? They're in the shoulder pads of players. They're, in wearables that the players have. They're in the football themselves, which, again, there's two things that are going to happen with the game this weekend, right? Matt's predictions are either going to be right and the Eagles win by 2+ scores, or the Chiefs will win a very close game where there's several controversial calls that happen.
Yeah, that's pretty likely.
Right. So those are the only two outcomes, right? There's no other possible outcome here. But specifically the Chiefs in the game before, there was a controversial call on a fourth down.
It was a first down.
Some people say first down, some people say fourth down stop. But they still have refs just kind of eyeball where they think the ball makes, how far it advances in real time, right? And then after the fact, they can kind of use video replay to decide. But for years, people would say, why don't you just put a chip in a ball? And it was shocking to me, like Amazon already has chips in the ball. So
it's been going on for years.
Why the heck, why don't we have this already is my first question. But with all this data, AWS collects over 500 million points of data every single season now within the NFL. And they've used that to, in their estimation, make the game better, right? Specifically, there's two really well-known changes that have happened specifically in the rules section. The first being kickoffs, right? Kickoffs were changed drastically where, Robbie, when I say kickoff, do you know what that is?
Maybe.
By the way,
is it the only time, or one of two times when the ball is actually hit with a foot, and that's why it's called football?
That's fair. Robbie, really quick, I have to tell you, just based on what Taylor just said, and it reminded me, my client, who's a Philadelphia Eagles fan, lives in Philadelphia. Congratulations to us, Brooke, with the Eagles' victory. He wanted me to let you know that he was giving you crap because you called the NFC Championship the semifinals. And so he wanted to make sure that you knew that it's not called the semifinals. It's called the NFC Championship.
Oh, my bad. Wasn't it like 4 people left?
Yeah, it's just funny.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Taylor. Back
to you. I apologize wholeheartedly. I'll stick to finance.
So just for historical context, for years and years and years, the kickoff is when one team kicks the ball and gives the possession to the other team. And in the past, they've kicked it from a certain point, and then everyone has run full steam, guns a-blazing down, and people just smash each other and just hit each other at full speed. And because of this, concussion rates were 4 times more likely on a kickoff than they were at any other play during the game, right? So what they did is they kept the kick from the same spot, but they moved up the teams, and they're not allowed to move now until the kick has been caught. And then when the kick has been caught, these teams, are only about 10 yards apart. And that's, as much as they can do to run and smash into each other. And so it's really caused concussions to go down specifically on kickoffs. Apparently kickoff concussions were down 17% year over year with this new change. And then the other big change was something called the hip drop tackle, which I had never heard of, Matt, but you familiar with that?
Yeah. Yep.
So essentially what that was is, someone wraps them around the hip and then they would just use their entire body weight and basically drop to the ground and like mangle the person that they were tackling's lower extremities, right? This rate, it was 20 times more likely for someone to get injured on this type of tackle than any other tackle, right?
Yeah, well, torn ACLs, broken ankles, things like that.
So just like constant injuries happening. So they've made two of these changes specifically from Amazon coming in, right? And just tracking this data and having 500 million plus data points to look at. And then on top of that, you've also seen, Robbie, if you haven't been watching football, you'll see it if you watch the Super Bowl this next week. Some of these players have started wearing these like kind of goofy looking helmets, Matt. How would you best describe these?
Like the pad. It's like a swim cap on top of your helmet.
Yeah, a swim cap that has like a pillow inside of it. Like they are in like just this massive like mushroom. It's almost like Toad from Mario with the mushroom hats on them. Yeah. So you've got these big, massive NFL linemen that are wearing these like, pillowy helmets now that kind of look silly. But again, it's really been a function of all the data that they've been capturing that's allowed them to change things that have been in place for decades at this point.
Yeah.
So on top of that, AWS has caused betting, and live betting to just skyrocket because you can bet on the completion of a pass or what's going to happen on the next play and all these things just because there's so much data and metrics behind every play.
Yeah, the prop bets.
So it's just interesting to note. And, when you think of Amazon, what would you describe Amazon as a company, right? Online retailer.
Yeah, literally get anything you want.
Right. But this Amazon Web Services, if you actually look at Amazon's profits from the last quarter, AWS accounted for 60% of Amazon's profits.
It's pretty wild.
Right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't fully understand all the inner workings of all the stuff happening. Like you said, Taylor, they're thinking of what Amazon is to the general consumer.
Yeah. And this is just, again, when people talk about selling your data and the data being captured on the internet and all the things, data is just money, right? If you can capture data, companies will pay for that data, right? It's one of the biggest reasons why Amazon, which you primarily think of as a online retailer, has done so well historically in the stock market is because they've moved into areas, right, that are far from online retail. And it's about collecting data and doing all of these different things that Amazon's doing in addition to their core services. So I wanted to bring this up because I just thought it was fun to talk about the NFL in preparation of the Super Bowl, right? And then I knew that Matt would get excited with the Eagles. But it's just also a reminder to me that while everyone is like on this AI kick and everyone's like, I've seen this really recently with my clients where they're like, I want to be exposed to more AI in my portfolio, or I want to be exposed to, you name it, any type of new technology that insert AI now. It's been other things in the past. The thing that we forget about is that the companies that we already know and love are also adapting their companies and their business models to include all of these new technologies, right? Even Dentist Advisors, right? Here at Dentist Advisors, we're incorporating AI, right, to get better as a firm. So the reason why I wanted to tie this and put a bow on it and how does this relate to you is, hey, even though you want to be exposed to more AI in your portfolio, it's just a good reminder that companies that you own and are already in your portfolio, whether or not they are actually AI companies, are implementing these services into their stocks or into their companies, and that's being incorporated in your stock returns as well.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Taylor, because we get a lot of these questions. We mentioned this last week, and people that are messaging us quite a bit lately, emails or otherwise, around like, hey, how do I get on these companies? And that's exactly the answer we always give them is, hey, this AI revolution is being like, it is part of the market. It is part of the economy. And as long as you own a globally diversified portfolio like we do, and you stick to your first principles, like you're going to benefit from this. So I think it's a really good point. Let's get Robbie in on this too.
No, I agree because AI and actually this ties to the story of how AWS, Amazon Web Services, came into being. I don't know if you guys know this, but I think it's fun to share. Amazon Web Services is what created the idea of, let's save stuff on the cloud. So back in the days when Amazon first started, not really back in the days, we're talking 2010s, 2010 area, Amazon was there and they noticed that they have a need in the company to store customer data and to store their like browsing behavior and their habits and the type of stuff that they buy to be able to predict what the next purchase is going to be, to move it to warehouse. There was all of these back-end calculations to try to make their business more efficient by at least trying to predict what their consumer is going to be buying. And they noticed that when you're trying to be a company that services the whole world, you need ability to store all the data. And before services, I don't know if you guys remember, but we had CDs, USBs, hard drives. This is what we used to put.
Well, I remember. That's what I grew up on.
Floppy disks. This is what we had stuff to store data.
I'm CD burning old here, Robbie. Okay, that's how old I am. I was burning CDs back in the day.
Yeah, I remember doing that for a while. The idea was like data centers storage requires an infrastructure that we still do not have. And just like it's more economic to have a big energy power plant to provide for a whole city, rather than everyone having their own electric engine in their garage, it is, from an economic perspective, more useful to have giant data centers. And then it's an engineering problem of how you get it to cool down. So that's why they do it in big warehouses out of cities, sometimes underwater. They've got Microsoft and Amazon, they got huge data centers underwater to keep them cool. And as they discovered that they need to lay down that infrastructure, they knew that other companies, any data company out there, will also face that problem. And they started renting out space in this virtual data house for other companies. And that's how the idea of let's save stuff on the cloud came to exist. And this is what catapulted Amazon way into the high valuation beyond just being a consumer discretionary. Why did I tell you that story? Other than it's like really interesting, it's on in its own merit. Innovation comes from continuous improvement of already what you have. When we moved to cars, it wasn't that we haven't seen wheels before. We had a carriage, we had wheels, but we had a horse pulling them. And the innovation was changing the horse into an engine. So the same idea with AI. It's not like AI is just going to drop out of the sky. It's every single business out there that are already in your portfolio are going to come in and do small tweaks where they change the horse into an internal combustion engine and that internal combustion engine into a battery-powered engine and move the car/company forward. So yes, companies like NVIDIA and stuff where they are providing the infrastructure for AI are moving the market right now. But the real advancement of AI is when we figured out self-driving cars. The real advancement of AI is when we have our own personal assistant 24/7, not having to do anything like booking seats, ordering food, doing your laundry, all the stuff that we hate. So the idea is the real value is going to happen when those bigger companies already in your portfolio figure out a way to incorporate it to be part of our daily lives. So missing out on a whole portfolio just to follow a couple of leaders might not be the good bet going forward.
Yeah, that's a great point, Robbie. And I also, as you're going through that story of the origins of AWS and now thinking to where Amazon is today, one of the largest, most dynamic companies in the world, like you said, literally serving the world and everything it does. I saw a video pretty recently of the origins of Amazon where they're filming on like an old school camcorder. It was like the late 90s with Bezos in his garage and they're walking through their headquarters. And he literally says, this is the headquarters of Amazon.com Inc. And so I'm just sitting there thinking, like, who would have thought at that point that Amazon would be what it is today when he's sitting there in his garage with all his fax machine and all this stuff. And a lot of times I think people look back and like, man, if I just would have got if I would have just known what Apple was going to be or Amazon or NVIDIA or whatever, it's like again, theme of this show a lot of times comes back to a very core first principle of investing. You don't have to know. You can just diversify your portfolio properly, and you can own the next Amazon, because there's a company or a ton of companies right now in existence today that will be the next Amazon, be the next Apple, be the next NVIDIA. They will take advantage of AI in the right way, and you can own it just by first principle type investing. So did we land that plane? Did we bring that home, Taylor?
No.
Did we?
Now we know the answer to what came first, the chicken or the egg. We know is the chicken wing, right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I love it. Okay, I love it. Awesome. So I was more blown away by anything more than the wing stat. 1.3 plus billion wings consumed last weekend of this recording. That's pretty wild. Okay, moving on. We're going to do a hard pivot to finish the show. I don't know how to even wrap this in, except for as I mentioned, traveling to Nicaragua this week. And so I thought, hey, let's change it up a little bit. I found an article from 10 different travel agents. They provided they gathered kind of this data from these 10 kind of large travel agent companies. They said, what's the top under the radar destinations to be traveling? So I thought this would be helpful if you're out there going to travel this year. And they literally, specifically the criteria was the most underhyped places to visit. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think it's hard to find anywhere that's underhyped nowadays in the day of social media. Are there any true hidden gems, would you guys say, when it comes to traveling? There's a couple on this list that I was pretty surprised by that I would have never thought to travel. So I'm going to put them on my list. But do you guys think there's anything there is such a thing anymore as a hidden gem in the world?
No.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think there's still hidden gems to yourself, right? Where you can go out there and find some things for yourself. But everyone's been there and done that. At least you can find something on anything, right? For sure.
Okay, so I'll just list these. And again, maybe if you're thinking about where to go on your next trip for 2025, these maybe go put on your list. So this is provided by this is not an ad, by the way. This is provided by travel app Hopper. Never heard of it, but this travel app called Hopper. They give some data, average fares, and some data for traveling to these places. So we'll start. I don't know if these are ranked. These are just no particular order, but the top 10 most underrated places to travel in 2025. First one being Albania. Robbie, I'd mentioned this, and you were like, "Oh, yeah, for sure." Have you been to Albania?
I haven't been to Albania, but all these Eastern European countries, Albania, Croatia, Serbia, Bulgaria, are known to be amazingly, just because they're close to where I grew up. I grew up in Lebanon, right? So I've been to Macedonia and Greece and Turkey, which are countries right next to it. Amazing weather. And the thing is, those countries were not part of the big empires of the world that draw tourists. We're not talking Paris, we're not talking Rome, we're not talking Egypt, where people just know it because it's part of civilization. Those were lands where people live, and the nature's still untouched over there, and they do not get a lot of foot trail from tourists, which have kept them cheap and kept them very organic and raw, which for some people who prefer this tourism of cultural immersion, they're a great place to be.
Yeah, I mean, it looks incredible from what the picture I'm seeing here. I'm not kidding you. I'm starting to Google flights to Albania and kind of planning it out, because I'm not kidding. It looks pretty amazing. I'll just kind of give you some highlights. They're saying Albania basically can't miss hiking. What they're saying you can't miss if you go there. Hiking in Valbona Valley National Park. The picture I'm seeing here is unbelievable views. Best time to go June to September, and then average flight price as of now is $926 to Albania. So there you go. Albania, number one. Number two, let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. Ecuadorian cloud forest. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Ecuador, but this looks also pretty amazing. We'll just go through this quickly. You're saying best time to go. They says temperatures are pretty consistent throughout the year. The difference is rainy versus dry season. Basically, they're saying you can travel there anytime. Average flight, $588 currently. Number three, Hamburg, Germany. You guys ever been to Germany?
I've been to Hamburg. So it's
Hamburg,
it's
sorry,
pretty
I miss Hamburg. Pretty amazing there.
well,
Would
I've been
you
there.
highly
I
recommend?
I say it is Hamburg because I've been there, Matt.
You're the guy that changes the accent. I like
Well,
this.
it's funny because there's a Hamburg, but then there's a Bad Hamburg. So I went there and I was like, this town's called Bad Hamburger, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely not pronounced Bad Hamburger.
Yeah. I'm sitting here like Hamburg, Germany. Okay, Hamburg, Germany is on there. They're saying really can go all seasons, but the best time is the fall, is what it's saying. Average flight just over $1,000. If you think I've mispronounced that one, just wait for this one, guys. Kyushu, Japan is the next one. Robbie, how did I do? Is that bad?
I don't know. I think it's Kyosho. I'm not sure. I think
Okay.
it's Kyosho.
Well, there's a couple coming up that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. They're saying best time to go in the spring, cherry blossom season. Also looks incredible. I will say Japan is top of my list. It looks incredible. I've heard nothing but amazing things about Japan. They're saying there's 3 different places to fly into. You're going to range anywhere from $1,300 to $1,600 for a flight. Okay, this is the one I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce. There's a national park in Brazil. I will maybe just post it or something because there's no way. But national park in Brazil, this is incredible to go to. Average flight, we're seeing a theme here, about $1,000 to fly into Brazil.
This picture is wild. Like, I'm blown away. I've never heard of this place in my life. And I'm like,
Yeah, do you want to give it a shot, Taylor, of how to pronounce that?
I'll leave it to our language expert, Robbie, to give us a
Robbie,
shot.
you get in there. You get
Hold
in there.
on. I'm Googling it. Hold on.
Well, it's on the doc. I have a link in there.
Yeah, you can move forward. I'll bring it. The problem
Okay.
is it's in Portuguese. So let's see.
Okay, we'll move on. Next one being, it just is the Nordic countries. This is also top of my list. I have origins from Norway. So I've always wanted to go back. My dad's real dad was an immigrant from Norway. So definitely want to go there. But they're saying Nordic countries, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Norway. I absolutely would go there. You guys ever been to any of the Nordic countries?
Made it to as far as Amsterdam. That's as high as I've been.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Netherlands was the furthest. I actually
Robbie,
checked that word. It's in Portuguese. I listened to 2 people pronounce it, and I still can't repeat it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, perfect. We are completely worthless here. Okay, Nordic countries. Average flight to Nordic countries anywhere from $770 to like $900 right now. It's not that bad. Next one, Philippines. I've heard amazing things about the Philippines. I've been to Thailand and thought about hitting the Philippines while we were trying to like bounce over there. I didn't ever make it, but I've heard amazing things about the Philippines. Best time to go, they said, really year round. It's a tropical country. The rainy season's from June to October. So just for what it's worth, but really travel year round. These flights actually kind of surprised me. Some of the most expensive to get there, anywhere from $1,300 all the way up to $1,500 to get to the Philippines.
My mother-in-law, funny enough, is in Cebu right now, and we were looking about going up. Currently, she's doing like a little service mission out in Cebu for 15 months. And
Awesome.
We're looking up flights to go visit her, and it's just to get over there. It's like a 24-hour trek with 3 flights.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're going to go to these places, you got to like dedicate at least a couple of weeks to make it worth it. Okay, I think we're down to a couple left. Tunisia. I also would have never thought of this. You guys have any thoughts on Tunisia?
Most of the
Is that where it's filmed?
Most of the sand planet of Tatooine is filmed in Tunisia.
Okay. There you go. It looks incredible.
Tunisia is a very diverse country. It has lots of similarities to Lebanon. That's why I know about it. They speak Arabic, but they're also a Francophone country because they were under a French mandate. So you go there, people are going to be speaking French, Arabic, and English to you as well. They have desert, but because they are on the Mediterranean, you're going to find like it's kind of like Greece when you go there. So it's beautiful weather-wise, food-wise, and very culturally rich. It's part of the world that is over 5,000 years old. Part of the Phoenician cities in Tunisia was called Carthage. So there's lots of history for people who like to go there.
I think
Tunisia,
Robbie,
hire me as a tour guide, please.
I was going to say, I think Robbie's the most cultured. No, let me rephrase. Robbie is by far the most cultured human I know. This is why I hang out with him, because I want to just seem cooler. Although I think it works the other way around. I think I seem like a bigger loser because you're so cultured. And I'm like, I'm going to California this summer. Okay. This actually breaks down on this one in particular, to your point, Robbie, very diverse as far as the different places to go and things to see and the weather. So they're saying travel year round there, but they're saying spring, warm, ideal for exploring ruins and nature. Summer, hot, perfect for beaches, but avoid the inland heat. Autumn, mild, great for both beaches and culture. And then winter, cool, best for the Sahara and fewer crowds. So there you go. If you're going to go, apparently you can find something to do year round. Flights there average are just under 1,400. I think this is the last. Oh no, sorry, two more. Uzbekistan. Robbie, you might have some thoughts on Uzbekistan.
I do not know. It's actually one of these countries that people didn't start knowing about it until social media. It's very closed. There's no free trade over there. It's actually hard to go into and out of the country, although it's safe. But it is geographically located next to like Kazakhstan, Iran, Pakistan, Uzbekistan. It's like the whole area over there is not really known to the foreign traveler. Even me, I lived in the same continent. I've never been to that part of the continent. But if you are into historic Islamic calligraphy, architecture, and history, that's a good place to go.
Yeah, the city looks incredible from the pictures that I'm seeing here.
If you're
going to check out Uzbek, oh, go ahead, Taylor.
I was going to say, if you'd asked me, to Robbie's point, where Uzbekistan is, I would not have been able to point to it on a map.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. Kind of interesting. It's saying this was once the capital of the Silk Road, so the crossing point for all trade routes between Europe and Asia. So, I mean, again, the sites and the city, from what I'm seeing here on the pictures, looks pretty incredible. Saying that the best time to go, spring and fall. Summers get apparently wildly hot and the winters get pretty cold. Kind of a shoulder season type place to go. Last but not least, Western Australia. This was probably a little bit more known, just Australia in general.
You should do the segment with an Australian accent.
I wish. You know what we should do is we'll get Chris Hemsworth to come on, and
we'll
also
a friend of the show.
Yeah, exactly. Also a friend of the show, exactly. Also, sorry, I forgot to mention Uzbekistan, 1,500 to 2,200 for flights. Western Australia, the most expensive place to fly to, at least. Very far away, $2,000 up to $3,000 to fly to Western Australia. This is also on the list, but Taylor, to your point, probably for all these places, but absolutely for Australia. If you're going to do that, you've got to dedicate a solid 2 weeks or more, because you're talking 2 days on either end to get there and get back.
Yeah. And then you might as well
list underrated places to travel.
You might as well just pop over to New Zealand while you're there and see the Shire. So,
Yeah. Taylor's referencing all of the movies that were filmed in these places.
Well, it's funny because,
sure.
As you're going through these places, I'm like, oh, I want to get over there so I can see the Shire. Oh, I want to go over there and see
where Star Wars,
where Luke grew up. You said Japan, and I'm like, the best Disney park in the world is in Tokyo. So I got to get over to Tokyo.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that, Robbie. You mentioned Croatia when I said Albania earlier. I've been to Croatia, and in Dubrovnik. This is where they filmed a lot of Game of Thrones. So when I was there walking through the cities of Dubrovnik where they filmed it, I was like nerding out completely because I loved it. I was like, this is where they filmed this scene. So I feel you, Taylor. That's what makes traveling fun, for sure.
I've got clients buying a vacation property in Croatia. So shout out to Ed and Alicia.
Okay, there you go. Croatia's incredible. Croatia is a very beautiful, incredible place. So that's an amazing place to be. Okay, guys, I just thought that was fun. Just wanted to go through, give some underrated, apparently under the radar places, although I'd be shocked if they're that under the radar, but maybe a little bit more under the radar than the typical Hawaii and type places like that. There were a few gems in there. I feel like I would have never thought of like places like Albania to travel, but I saw the pictures and I'm like, I might check this out at some point here pretty soon. So guys, any final thoughts on any of this that we've hit so far at all, the travel or just Super Bowl or anything?
Thanks for the segment. You made us feel like we went on a vacation with you while you're in Nicaragua enjoying the sun.
There you go. Exactly. It's on theme. So, okay. Well, thank you guys for listening. Taylor and Robbie, thanks for, as always, sharing your knowledge. As always, we're going to plug the Dentist Money Summit. We would love to have you out. June 20th and 21st. Plan for the present. It is going to be an incredible event. I'm not saying we're going to sell out. I really don't know if we will, but we're definitely ahead of schedule as we track the numbers of who's coming. And I think it's going to be, by the way, CE, Taylor, we just talked about this the other day, where you're actually going to be able to get CE, come and enjoy a great weekend with us in Park City. And then also, if you're out there listening, needing help with anything to do with financial planning, investment management, anything to do with your money, if you have questions you need answered, please call us. We'd love to talk to you, hear your story, point you in the right direction, answer any questions you have. dentistadvisors.com. Again, everyone, thanks for listening. That was our 2 cents. Till next time. Bye-bye.